All right, welcome to the video. We're going to get straight into it. I'm going to be breaking down my weekly analysis on US 30, NAS, and SPX. For those of y'all who are new here, if you like the content, please like the video, subscribe, whatever you feel in your heart is right. I have made other videos about how I like to break down my charts. I think maybe just one. It wasn't deeply explained on exactly how I do it. I think I just focused mostly on market structure and zones. But in this video, I'm going to be showing y'all how I mark up my charts on a weekly basis. Hopefully that can give y'all some clarity on how y'all can mark up y'all charts, or even just give y'all a little bit of input on how y'all can improve your own trading strategy moving forward. So first and foremost, when I mark out any of my charts, again, we're going to be going over 30, 500, and then 100. So it's the weekly analysis, so you got to start on the weekly. So on the weekly time frame, what I'm gonna go ahead and do is just analyze structure. I'm gonna analyze candles. So looking at the structure of the market, if I had to say what the market overall was in, it depends on how far you zoom out. Now I understand indices very well. I know they like to push up. So for me, this is just a rebound in the market, right? Similar to areas like this, similar to areas like this. So we can say the market is in a downtrend. Why? Because it had these lower high, lower low. This is the retest area. I'm gonna look at it more so as a rebound and anticipate that this market will continue to fly up. But again, if we're looking at it for what it is, it's a downward market, and we do have this area right here where we see prices holding up. There was a lot of wicks over in this spot, and then it gets back up to the area, and we see that it's not really breaking it very cleanly. Now I'm not gonna leave this zone here, but I'm using it just for reference. So looking at this zone, right, and we look at these candles that came back up and hit the zone. So we have indecision candle right here, right, a doji, and then we have a very bullish candle pushing into the level. Once it gets into the level, we see a bearish candle, right? It prints it based off where it opened and closed at. But at the same point, the same way you would call this an indecision candle, I like to call these an indecision candle as well. Why? Because we can see that within this weekly time frame, we see that the price actually we can see that price broke the previous highs of the week right here and made new highs. But within that same week, it also broke the lows of the previous week and made new lows. So in my mind, this is an indecision candle only for the fact that it made new highs and it made new lows all within the same candle. So that means there is a lot of, whether buyers, sellers, volatility, liquidity, whatever you want to call it, there's a lot going on in this area that's making price jump around where it's making new highs and new lows in the same area. So that's something that I do want to pay attention to, that there is indecision in this area. So it's pretty obvious, there's going to be a lot of sellers and buyers in this area because it is a zone. So, those are what you call confluence. It's pretty obvious. It's a zone. We're going to find buyers and sellers here because everybody thinks that the price is going to either change directions or continue to go. But the candle here confirms that there is a good amount of sellers and buyers in the area because it did make this indecision candle. Now we see the next candle pops up and it makes a lower high based off of the previous week. So it had these highs up here. It made a lower high here, but it did not make a lower low. So in my brain, this market is beginning to squeeze. All right, I'm not going to keep any of these markups. This is just me trying to show y'all what would be going through my mind, when I'm looking at these candles. I don't have to really put this down on the chart to really remember and see it, but just so y'all can get a visual. We see that the market is squeezing. Why? Because it's making higher lows and lower highs. So we're making a triangle pattern. Now, at some point, more than likely soon, we're going to see it break either down or we're going to see it break up. Now, that is going to be for the lower time frame analysis to figure out. But right now, we can see that the market is in indecision. It's on a level where it could potentially fall, and it's starting to squeeze. In which direction? I would assume up, only because I understand that these pairs like to rebound after big falls. Now, if we look at 500 and 100, they're going to look very similar to this chart as well. Mostly because 500, 100, and 30 all move based off the top, like what is this, top 7 companies in this country move most of these markets. So when you see US 30 moving in a certain direction, this is a little tip. When you see US 30 moving in a certain direction very strong, 9 times out of 10 you're going to see 500 and you're going to see 100 both moving very strong in a direction as well. So we're going to go down after the weekly, right? We see that it's getting into an area where it could potentially fall. We see indecision, and we see it starting to squeeze. So right now we're expecting a breakout in one of these directions. Very simple. Then I'm going to go down to the daily. Again, I'm going to just look at the structure. I'm going to look at the candles more specifically now. I'm going to do this more specifically through the week, right? After each day, I'm going to go back to the daily candles, and I'm going to look at the daily candles to see what they could be telling me as far as what could happen next. But for the sake of right now, what do we see? We see the highs here of the daily, actually the highs here of the daily strong trend. We see the highs here. We did see it break up above these highs right here for 2 candles. That would be considered a break for me. So now that makes the lows really right around here of the daily. So the daily is in an uptrend. We see that this did not break for 2 candles here. We see it one, it breaks through the zone, then two comes right back above. So the market is squeezing on the weekly, and we see that the daily is in an uptrend. So outside of that, we see the candlesticks on this lows of the daily. We see more indecision. What is this indecision on the zone telling us? There are a lot of buyers and sellers here. It could be an area where the market is looking to break out and pop. We see it make lower high, higher low. So the market is beginning to squeeze once again, right, in both directions. Squeezing. So again, I'm not keeping any of this. I just want to know overall what I'm dealing with on a higher time frame. So when I move to these lower time frames, I know what I'm looking for. So the daily's making highs. Now we're going to go to the 4-hour. All right, on the 4-hour, what do we see? Well, first and foremost, we have to identify the trend that it's in. So at one point, this wasn't a major downtrend, and it was taking forever to switch over because these were the highs, right? But then these highs finally got broken after a few weeks. We see it breaks up above here for more than 2 candles, which then makes these the lows. It breaks the lows, lower high, lower low. It breaks this high up here, starts making new highs, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. So we have the 4-hour higher low here. Let's see if it even broke it. No, it did not. Why did it not break the zone? Because it did not close below the zone for 2 candles. So this is where my analysis will start. First and foremost, I am going to be marking out the highs and the lows on the 4-hour, and I'm going to be marking out liquid, basically areas on the 4-hour. But I don't want to put too many because I don't want to overcomplicate it and have my chart looking crazy. I only want the best levels that where the market's actually going to push from. So we got the lows and highs here. I like to draw mine from the body of the candle down to the bottom of the wick. All right, something like this. All right, boom. After we get this highs and lows, I'm gonna look for some areas on the chart where it obviously makes, you know, big moves from. So we're gonna do something like right around here. Maybe move it up a little bit like that. That's fine. We're not gonna do too many. We do see some highs up around here. See, now what I'm looking for on these charts is I'm looking for levels of support and resistance. So we have support, support, support. If we zoom in here, we have some resistance, a little bit of resistance, support. Plays around here, kind of resistance. Again, this is an area, not just a price point. So resistance, support, and then more support. So we have a lot of support on this level anyway. And then on the daily, it's already at a buyer's market, so we're expecting it to buy. So this level does seem to be holding up well for support. So we can look for a market to get down to here and buy, even though previously we already seen it touch, so it may not want to get back down there, right? Just keeping that in the back of our mind. I'm gonna drop maybe 2 more points. Probably put one here, you know, so resistance, support, resistance, support, resistance, support, support, resistance. And then maybe one in between, like around here. This one's decent. I don't really all too much care for this. Why? Because even though it has support and resistance here, so resistance, support, it played around a lot in this area, resistance, resistance-ish, and resistance. But I'm gonna keep these 3 levels for now. If I see market break down throughout the week, then I'll probably make more lines, you know, not even probably, I'm gonna draw more lines below this area. But until then, I'm expecting buy, so I'm gonna just keep my lines up above. So now I have the 4-hour highs and lows, and I have the 4-hour liquid areas where I could expect big moves to happen at. After this, I'm gonna go down to the 1-hour, and I'm also gonna find the highs and lows. We're gonna go to the 1-hour, mark out the highs and lows. Now on the 1-hour, it's kind of weird. I don't really care for overlapping zones. This would be, I'm gonna change the color of it, but this will be the 1-hour highs. Being that it's already the 4-hour highs, I'm gonna just let it be what it is. I accidentally switched it. I'm gonna let it be what it is, and then we have the 1-hour lows here. Boom. And then the 1-hour retest, sticky. The 1-hour retest will be like really here. Why? Because This was the previous higher low. Actually, no, I'm lying. I'm lying. Yo, if y'all get confused at any point within this video, because I'm not really going to overly break this down. If y'all get confused about anything in this video, go check out my other video on market structure, and I'm going to be breaking down exactly how I do my highs and lows, and what do I identify as highs and lows, double tops, double bottoms, things of that nature. So reality is, this is the retest of the 1 hour. This is if I was looking for a sell. Why? Because the 1 hour is in a downward market right now. It won't be up until it breaks these highs, or it gets back down, closes within here, and then breaks up as like it's a double bottom or something. It won't all the way cross momentum, but it'll be enough confluence for me to want to buy the market. So right now, 1 hour's down, 4 hours up. All right, we're not going to do any major zones on the 1 hour or anything crazy like that. At this point, this is basically all I'm going to do for my chart. Right, I have the overall analysis. I have the weekly squeezing. Right, I have the weekly squeezing. I have the daily squeezing here currently, expecting it to pop out. The daily momentum is up. It's above the 60 EMA. On the 4 hour, what do we have? We have the 4 hour momentum is up. So we're looking for buys, specifically down at this level. As long as the 4 hour doesn't close below here for two plus candles, we can end up looking buys in this area. All right, so even when it's down below here, let's say on this wick candle here, when it was down below here, I understood that this market could still buy up. All that we had to do was just look for buy confirmations, whether that be reversals or whatever other entry strategy you have. Once it closes underneath for two candles, that's when we no longer are going to be looking for buys. It closed underneath one candle, doesn't matter, we're still looking buys, comes right back above. If it would have closed beneath two candles, we would have stopped looking for buys. We go on the 1 hour, we see the 1 hour momentum is down, but that's fine. It doesn't really dictate what we're going to do on this trade, because we're doing the 4 hour as our directional bias of where we're going to be taking trades, and we're going to be using the 1 hour to align that every now and then. So sometimes I'll do a pullback trade on the 1 hour, sometimes I won't. Just depends on how good the setup looks. So looking at this here, we have the 4 hour up, we have the lows, we have the highs. It faked out the lows. I'm going to be looking for it to potentially come back down into this zone again one more time, and then look for it to buy up. Now, I don't care for this retest zone. Why? Because the market came back up into the zone. It didn't do anything. And if we're being honest, the 1 hour faked out. The way I should have. The 1 hour is actually up. The 1 hour isn't down. Why? Because the 1 hour didn't break for more than two candles. So if you caught that prior to me saying it, beautiful. Sometimes I slip up, but I always catch it in the end. The 1 hour broke out, came back up above within two candles. So this is not the 1 hour low. This is still the 1 hour low. It faked out the 1 hour low, meaning that the 1 hour is still up. The 4 hour is still up. I'm going to be looking for it to come back down into this level. Does it have to? Not really. But I'm going to be looking to take my entry off the 15-minute or the 5-minute after it comes back down into this level. Now, if it never comes back down into that level, that is fine as well. What I'm going to do is go down to the 15-minute, and I'm going to just analyze structure. See, this market is very choppy right now, so there's not much structure. Usually when there's not any zones around, I'll go off a structure, break, and retest things of that nature. Or even just the 1 hour zones, I'll look for me to take my candles. I'll look for me to take my entries off of. But being that there isn't any, structure, the 1 hour and the 4 hour zones are the same. At this point, it's just a waiting game. I'm gonna wait for it to get back down into here. This is the best possible place for me to get my entry, and then I'm gonna look for it to buy. And then if it flies straight through, then it flies straight through. If not, and it makes structure in between, I'll look for break and retest on here, and then look to get my entries as well. So what that would look like would be something like this. I'll look for it to move through the zone like that, and obviously taking my entries at the best possible points here, and then taking them up to the top, because it's a buyer's market on the daily, the 4 hour, and the 1 hour. So all I'm going to be looking for on US 30 next week are buys. Now, where are you going to get these entries at? It all depends on how the market begins to print. But I'm going to be looking for it to come back up into here, or come back down into here, and then look for it to buy up. If it breaks through and the 4 hour reverse is over, will I begin to look sales? Well, I wouldn't want to, especially being that there's a level of support here. So I'll probably wait for it to break this level of support here first, and then look for sales. And if it doesn't, then I'll just look forward to a reversal pattern on the 4 hour for them to then look buys again. And again, a reversal pattern on the 4 hour is going to take a while. It takes time for some of these strategies to develop. That's why sitting on your hands and being patient is very important. Let's see. Looking at the candlestick structures here, we see that it made indecision and then it made a higher low, higher high. So after the indecision, it's starting to make new highs off of a level where we're already anticipating it to buy from. On the 15 or the 5, I'm gonna just wait for it to creep back down into the zone like this. Once it gets back down into the zone, I'm gonna either look for, depending on what the structure is like, I'm gonna look for it to either show a reversal pattern, or I'm gonna wait for it to start making new highs candlestick wise. And then I'll put my entries here. Stops, I'm gonna keep them really tight. I'm not gonna try to anticipate because I could put them. I'm gonna say tight because I'm not putting them below here. I'm not putting them below here. At that point, I might as well just find a new trade setup. So I'm gonna put them like roughly 1,000, which isn't the tightest, but given the move that we're looking for it to make, we're looking for it to move all the way back up through here. Maybe like a potential 1 to 5, like this, and then taking entries as well while it's going up. And that's gonna be my analysis for US 30 for the next week. Moving on to SPX 500, a lot of these are going to be the same, so I'm not going to go in debt as much as I did with those. But as we can see on the weekly, is moving down. You know, US 30 had the same type of structure, except price ended here, and it was currently inside this box. On 500, it is above this area, and it's looking like it wants to continue to push. So we see the market make a higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, still moving up. On the daily, we see indecision, kind of like a pullback because the candles are so weak. Looks like it may want to continue to buy. On the daily, the lows will be here, the highs will be here. And then we'll be looking for it to either come back down to these proximal lows or come back all the way down to these daily lows or even the daily retest of the previous highs. And then look for it to continue to buy. Now, those are just potential options. On the 4-hour is where I'm going to start my structure out at. So first and foremost, where is the highs and the lows? We have a lower high, lower low, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. So the higher low previously was here. Now again, go to my market structure video if this doesn't make sense to you, but I'm gonna draw my lows somewhat like this from the body of the candle down to the bottom of the wick. We see that was the lows. It ended up breaking the lows here. So now we're in a downward movement. So these will be the highs. All right. And these will be the lows. Now, being that US 30 is already expected to go up, I'm looking at the stock market and expecting it to go up as well, just my own bias. I'm going to be expecting this to break these 4-hour highs and shift into a buyer's market. All right. So these are the highs, these are the lows. I'm going to be looking to mark out my liquid areas now. Areas where the market really pushes from. I don't like anything, so I could draw a bunch of these lines, but I like movement off of my level. So here, big movement. Here, big movement. Here, big movement. Here, we have a small movement, small movements, kind of a solid move. But I like big moves. Again, here, big movement. So that's where I'm drawing all my lines at. So at least I know when it gets to these lines, even though it might take some time, at least I know when it gets there, there's a lot of potential orders that might be sitting there waiting to be filled. And I don't really like none of these other, zones, to be honest. It's too choppy in this area. There's nothing that's clearly defined. So what am I going to do? Not force it. All right, so this is all I got to rock out with right now. I'm going to go down to the 1-hour. We see the 1-hour somewhat aligns with the 4-hour. So I don't really care for drawing the 1-hour zone here because, I could, but I'm not expecting a sell one. Even though I should look for a sell, but that's a different topic. I'm not really expecting a sell. These are the 1-hour highs, but they damn near match up with the 4-hour. So what I'm looking for coming to this next week, I got literally 3 things in here, 2 boxes and a line. All I'm going to be doing is looking for this to break these highs of this zone, retest, and then begin to buy up. That's it. Now, can it sell here? Yes. The reason that I'm not going to be looking to sell here is because by the time I get into the market, we're going to already have Sunday night gone through and Monday morning gone through. I start trading at 6 in the morning, so that's already about maybe 14 candles that is going to fluctuate from here. Now, if it starts to fall, being that it's already on the zone, oh well. If it begins to buy, then I'll just look for the retest. But if it stays on this level, I definitely can look for a sell. I'll drop down to a lower time frame, maybe look for it to reverse over, retest, and then continue to fall down. So even though SPX right now is currently in a downward market for the 4-hour, I am anticipating long-term buys. Why? Because the daily is kind of like in a pullback motion. It could pull back either to these lows, it could pull back down to these lows, or even just these retests. And these are areas that I will look for the 4 hour to reverse over at. I'm not going to mark them off right now because I actively look at these zones. I don't like to keep my charts overly crowded. I like to follow the 4 hour momentum and the 1 hour momentum and just understand what the higher time frames are telling me and what they could be showing me. Because even though that these are potential areas where it can buy up from as well on the daily, that does not mean it has to. I'm going to continue to follow my 4 hour momentum as to where I should be taking my trades to. And then even looking at the candlestick patterns here, what do we have? Lower high, lower low, higher low, higher high, starting to make new highs in the area. So we're just going to wait to see what happens. Maybe it breaks, maybe it doesn't. But I want to say that is all that I'm going to have. I'm going to wait for it to break these highs, retest, go down to a lower time frame, and then take my entry. Now we're going to go down to the last one, NAS 100. Do the same thing. Go on the weekly. What do we see? Indecision on the previous weekly candle. Then we have a higher low, higher high with a wick. It only kind of closed in the bottom half of the candle. You know, overall moving down. This was the area right here that US 30 was caught up in. Structure was, it's above that. Daily, what do we see? We see a potential double top that could be forming. Do I believe in it? Not really. It did make an indecision candle along this area, but that makes sense because this is an area where there are buyers and sellers that it pushed the market down previously. We do see a long, like dragonfly candlestick, I think that's what they call it, or a hammer, something like that. But we do see this long wick on this candlestick here, indicating that there could be buyers still in the market, which I wouldn't be shocked. My overall analysis is to buy. Now, are we just going to buy it right here? No, we're not. Doesn't make sense. We need to get to a level first before we can look for it to buy. So we're going to go down to the 4 hour, mark out the structure of its highs and lows. Now we did have a higher low here, higher high. It ended up breaking here, making this the lower high. Boom. And then we made this right here the lower low, and it's going to be the same analysis as SPX. We're going to wait for it to break these 4 hour highs, retest, and begin to buy. Obviously, first TP is really going to be like up here, depending. You know, I can't even say it's going to be my first TP because I'm going to be taking it off a lower time frame. But this is my target level for sure, these highs here. Now I'm going to go down to the 1 hour. The 1 hour somewhat matches up with the 4 hour highs, and it matches up with the 4 hour lows, so I'm not going to draw those out. One thing I did forget to do was put the liquidity areas on the 4 hour, the areas where it really moves from on the chart. I don't like how choppy it is up here. Is there anything I really like here? Not really. Maybe there's something here. Right, highs. So I'll leave something in like that right here. And then, I mean, yeah, that's really it. So I'm gonna just keep it like that. It's above the EMA still. It just faked it out. And we're gonna wait for it to buy. There's not really much structure going on any of these pairs. No really triangles. There's potential double tops at best. There's not really much structure going on. So again, look for it to break, retest, go on the lower time frame, and look for my entry on the 15-minute or the 5-minute, and then look to take it basically back up to these highs long term. Now, there's going to be other areas where I can look to take my trade out at. Here, right? All levels where I can potentially take my trade out at after I get my entry, depending on what the risk reward is. Yeah, I want to say that wraps up the video though. I like keep my analysis very simple. I do highs, lows, I do liquidity areas. When I get down to my lower time frame, 15-minute and 5-minute, that's when I really put in the most work to verify if the trade is actually good, you know, whether it be break and retest, whether it's just hitting a level, making new highs, making new lows, whatever the case may be. That's when I really get into my bag. But as far as finding an area where the market can make a big move off of, in my opinion, that's the easiest part. Should be some solid moves in the market this week. But until the next video, I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm going to be doing weekly analysis every week. So stay tuned in if you like the content, if you like how I mark these charts up, if you want to learn how to mark them up as well, just like this. Obviously, just keep watching me. I'm going to be giving out this free content for as long as I can see, really, because I don't really care for making courses or doing none of that. I'd rather just give out free content and let y'all do what y'all want with it. And yeah, that's going to wrap up the video. You know, like, comment, please subscribe. I'm looking to build this channel up. obviously, the more subscribers I get, the more videos I do, the more video ideas I get, and the more value I get to give back to you. You know, so until next time, y'all stay